Well, welcome to chapter 35. You made it. Now, in chapter 34, we concentrated on Dideomi, and we concentrated on just the indicative of Dideomi. What we're going to look at in chapter 35 are the other categories of me verbs. You'll see there's very little to learn. And then we're going to look at some of the other forms, some of the other non-indicative forms of Dideomi. So we're going to kind of piecemeal pick up the rest of the athematic conjugation. Me verbs are categorized on the basis of the final stem vowel, just like contract verbs. And so what we've looked at are Omicron class me verbs. Dideomi, didos, didosi, that kind of stuff. What you're going to find is that the me verbs in the other classes behave just like Dideomi does, except for the differences of the vowel. Go one column to the left and look at Tithemi. Okay, Tithemi is the representative me verb of me verbs whose roots end in an epsilon. Do goes to dido, goes to didomi, and in the same way, the goes to tithe, goes to tithemi. Now, I glossed over one little difference. Instead of it being thithe, and you can hear the necessary pause to say thithe, which is what the Greeks don't like to do, they take the reduplicated theta and turn it into a tau. They deaspirate it, is a technical term. So thithe goes to tithe. Now that's just a characteristic of stems beginning with the theta. But you can see, first of all, that Tithemi is formed from its root pretty much the same way that Dideomi is formed from its root. Can you see that? You have the added difference that instead of being thithe with two thetas, the first theta goes to a tau, but you just learn that and go on, all right? So where you have didos, you get tithes. Can you see that's the same thing? You have the lengthened root vowel, where in Dideomi it's an omicron going to an omega. On the epsilon is going to an eta, but it's the same thing that's happening. Tithes. So if you were to see that, you would see the theta, long vowel. You would see the reduplicated with the tau and the iota, that tells you it's the present tense system. And you have the sigma, which tells you it's second person singular. Tithesi, same thing that you have with didosi, right? It's really important that you see it's the same thing that's happening. Otherwise, you have to just memorize these things, and they're a pain in the neck. Okay, go all the way over to the left-hand column. This, again, it's the same thing with a twist. Maybe that's what I should call this chapter. Same thing with a twist. You have the root sta. Now, the twist is that when the sigma gets reduplicated, sista, Greeks don't like the reduplicated sigma, and so they swap it with a rough breathing. And so sta goes to histe. So in a sense, think of that rough breathing as reduplicated sigma. Guess what? The rough breathing isn't there in the other tenses, or at least in some of the other tenses, because the rough breathing represents the reduplicated sigma. But again, that's just a peculiarity of the root sta. But alpha me verbs, in and of themselves, are pretty straightforward. You have stemi, stace, stacy, but the reduplication and the rough breathing and all that, you get histemi, histace, histacy. So what you can do on these words is you can go through the rows and see the same thing happening, with a little extra twist. The reduplicated sigma goes to a rough breathing. The reduplicated theta goes to a tau. Other than that, it's the same thing. And then you can go vertically down the columns and see the same things happening. Dideomi is the only me verb that you're going to learn that's a me verb with an upsilon, but it's in the process of wanting to become a thematic verb. In fact, all the me verbs are in the process of shifting over to the regular thematic conjugation, and which has some interesting results in the New Testament. Dideomi is a long way there. In other words, there's no reduplication. It has, though, the same endings. Dideomi, Dideomis, Dideonusi. But there's no reduplication, just peculiarity of this particular word. So let me summarize. In Stemi, you have the reduplicated sigma becoming a rough breathing. In Tithemi, you have the reduplicated theta becoming a tau. And in Dideomi, you have a verb trying to change its conjugation. Other than that, they're perfectly regular. All right? But it really is. That's how you have to look at these things. And what happens in Dideomi is happening in all the other verbs, the only difference being there's a different stem vowel. Let's look at the plurals, just so you can see the same thing going on. We've learned didomin, didate, didaasi with a new movable. Okay? Swap the da for a the, deaspirate the reduplicated theta, and you get tithemin, tithete, titheasi. Same things happening. If you go to the alpha column, histamin, histate, histasi, same thing. And then Dideomi is Dideomin, Dideonute, Dideonuasi. See what's going on in these words? If you get Dideomi firmly in your head, if you know the roots of the other me verbs, and if you know the peculiarities of a few of those me verbs, then the me verb system falls into place. If you can't see what's happening, you're going to be consigned to simply memorizing these things, which means you'll probably never really learn them unless you teach Greek. Now let me say, one of the things you really need to do with chapter 35 is read it, start to process it, and then go to the back of the textbook where all the me verb paradigms are, and just start browsing through the paradigms. Because I'm not exposing you to everything in the paradigms, but if you understand what we've covered, then as you see what these verbs look like in their different forms, they're going to make sense to you. And I can't take the time in class to browse through the paradigms, but you really need to do that. You need to spend the time and asking yourself, okay, if I saw that form, would I recognize it? Okay? We're not asking you, at least I'm not asking you, to be able to reduplicate these paradigms. But you do need to be able to recognize them, and if you know how me verbs are put together, that's not a big deal. If you came across Dido, what do you know about it? Even if you don't know anything else, what do you know about that? Okay, it has to be a present, doesn't it? Because you have the reduplication with the neota. And then you have your root, and the root is just, it ends in this long omega, but you know that it's not a first person singular present active indicative because that's a lexical form, and this is the me verb. So this is a subjunctive. It's the only thing it can be. Now, these are just to kind of give you a feel for the kind of paradigms you're going to see. Dido, didos, dido, didomin, didote, didosi. Those have to be subjunctives. They can't be anything else. Reduplication with the neota, you're in the present tense system, and you have the long vowels swallowing up everything, so the endings look a little different. You're used to an eta, aren't you, in the second person singular, in the subjunctive. Right? O, ace with the neota subscript, a with the neota subscript, right? Well, here the omega's just swallowed up everything. But if you saw do, dos, do, what is it? See why you have to know the roots? Because there's not much there to hang on to. Well, if you can see that it's a delta and an O-class vowel, you know that you have the root of didomi. You see there's no reduplication, so you're out of the present tense system. And then you see that there's no augment, so you know you're out of the indicative system. That has to be an aorist subjunctive. Okay, this is the kind of thing that you have to go through on these paradigms. And there's no substitute at this point for time. You just have to spend the time going through them. Okay, let's play a little bit of a guessing game. See how these things fit together. Tithete. Tell me what you know. Okay, it has to be a present tense system. Reduplication with the neota. Second person plural. That's right. It's a present active indicative, second person plural, from Tithemi. You put or you place. Histatai. Has to be a present because you have the iota with the rough breathing. That's the reduplicated form of the root sta, third singular. See why you have to know your basic paradigm so well? So what is it? Middle passive. It did do. Now these are getting a little complicated, so if you're struggling, that's okay. Okay, you have a present stem, don't you? Because you have the reduplication, but you also have an augment. So when do you have an augment with the present tense stem? Imperfect, right. Then all you have to do is figure out what crazy kind of combination. How do you get an omicron upsilon when the first vowel is an omicron? Well, there's two ways to contract to get omicron upsilon, right? It's omicron, or omicron epsilon. So the question is, when do you have, well, you never have that. You never have the omicron by itself. But you do have epsilon as an ending. So the question is, when do you have epsilon as an ending? Go through your imperfect paradigm. Eluon, elus, elu, right? So the epsilon is what is used for the third singular in the imperfect. When you get way down into the heart of things, there's some real mystery in the morphology in Greek. And what happens in some of the formations, like with contract verbs, and evidently with me, is that some of these other things are formed as if the true endings were o, ace, a in the present, on, s, in the imperfect. Now we know that epsilon is in fact a connecting vowel, there's no question about it, but when it comes to me verb, it's behaving as if it's the personal ending. See why you have to be able to piece these things together? If you're feeling tentative, that's okay. I mean, this is about as hard as it gets, all right? I mean, I chose hard forms on purpose. Hey, congratulations. So I know it's been a long, hard class. This just the nature of languages. And you all have done really well, so congratulations.